Well, I hate to say another boring episode of Game of Thrones in which nothing really happened at all. But, I mean, just in case you haven't seen it yet, spoilers. Jon Snow is back, baby! Woo! Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Game of Toms. I'm your host, Tom Grossi, reviewing episode 2 of season 6 of Game of Thrones entitled Home. And holy mackerel, that was an episode. Last week, some of my minor complaints were the fact that it was a slow episode. It was more like an episode 11 of season 5. But nay, today, so much happened. Of course, breaking it. Let's just start with the really awesome stuff. Jon Snow is revived. Jon Snow is back. I'm so giddy and I'm so excited. But more importantly, I think the talking point of this entire episode, and the most important thing really, is that Hodor is back. And his name was Willis. I think that is the key piece of information that diehard fans like myself have been essentially longing for since the beginning of Game of Thrones. So I want to thank the show writers for finally giving us that backstory on probably the most in-depth character there is on Game of Thrones, being Hodor, or I should say Willis. But yeah, Jon Snow. Jon Snow is back. Red Woman, no longer old. Well, at least for the time being. You know, she put her necklace on. She put her young person suit on. She put her hands over. Oh, man, didn't work. That's so sad. Tormund walked out. Didn't work. Onion Knight, peaced out. And I was like, oh, man. No way this is going to end on such a depressing note. All of a sudden, Puppy, which is now the second episode in a row, Puppy has appeared. You know it's a good sign. Ears are moving. Boom. Daddy is back. That was a great episode. That was a great episode. Let's break it down. First things first, for the first time in 2 years, Bran is back. So he got puberty hit him like a train. So he's now tall and lanky. So that storyline's up and running. I mean, he's not up and running, but that storyline is up and running. He goes back into the past and he sees a younger version of his father, Ned Stark. He sees his uncle Benjen. He sees Ned's sister, which, if you saw the previews, of course, we're finally going to see the Tower of Joy, which, if you have not read the books, don't fear, I'm still on the 4th book, because that's a hard read. But, and a little spoiler action, I'm thinking next week it's going to be revealed, the long-standing theory that Jon Snow is a Targaryen, and I personally am as excited as a schoolgirl. But that was pretty cool. It was pretty cool seeing Bran back in action, and of course you got Hodor. Hodor absolutely makes that fantastic. But continuing on with the episode, we went back to Jon Snow's dead body. You had the Night's Watch breaking down the door. All of a sudden, boom, what's this? Wildling attack. And it featured a pretty awesome Hulk, or should I say giant smash, with the giant literally picking that guy up and slamming him against the wall, which was just a phenomenal scene. And I have to say, when they caught Ollie, I really was hoping for him to just go for the watch and just kill him. But unfortunately, they just threw him in prison. But I am hoping soon that he will be dog food. And Ghost will get a full belly on Ollie. Which, speaking of dog food, look at that transition. Never thought that'd be something I'd say. But this episode, we really found out what goes into dog food. And that just happens to be Walda Frey and her baby. That is terrifying. Absolutely terrifying. Ramsay just threw caution to the wind and said, you know what, Dad? Here you go. Boom. Here's a knife. Lannisters send their regard. Nay. Boltons send regards. So, Roose Bolton is dead. Ramsay kills him. And then in a horrific scene, which, I don't know about you, I was shaking that entire time, where Walda Frey and new baby has just turned into dog food. So Ramsay is now running Winterfell. He is now Lord Bolton. Ramsay has slowly become, definitely over the past 2 seasons, but he's becoming a more powerful character and is just getting worse by the minute. And I think this really speaks to Game of Thrones, that we see these characters, like, for example, Roose Bolton. Of course, we all wanted him to die for what he did to Robb. Lannisters send their regards. But it wasn't satisfying at all. Seeing Ramsay kill him kind of made it a little bit worse. Like, I wanted Roose to die. Not that way, though. But Game of Thrones is not really all about the good guys winning. I think that's why we like it so much. In other parts around the world, you see the Mountain, who is kind of Cersei's Lenny from Of Mice and Men, if you will, who's just kind of like her silent giant, who's just walking around smashing people's heads after they just finished peeing. And this episode was cool too because it showed how useless Tommen really is, and he's kind of coming to that self-realization that he's completely useless in the show, and he really has no power. But he's like, "Hey, Mom, why don't you help me be a monster?" And Cersei's like, "Honey, I thought you would never ask." So Cersei is essentially going to have her claws dug into another king, which the High Sparrow, I mean, kind of revealing his true colors to Jaime, showing, we can overthrow an empire. They've made a formidable foe, but I mean, against the Mountain and a pissed off Lannister family with a really, really bad drinking problem, I would be afraid if I were them. But we'll see there. But another highlight of the episode is going over to Meereen, and this is something that I've wanted for 2 seasons. They let the flying puppies out, because just in case you're confused, ghost puppy, dragons, flying puppies, okay? Tyrion having the wonderful idea of going down into the dragons, and he has an awesome line of "don't eat the help," which was just phenomenal. Releases the 2 dragons, so now I can only hope that they will get bigger and bigger and bigger, and Tyrion will finally get his wish of having his own dragon, and Khaleesi and Tyrion can then fly off into the sunset, which would be fantastic and be the greatest thing on Earth. We also saw the Iron Islands, which we haven't seen for how many seasons now. So I know that they're in the 4th book. I know that the Greyjoys have some really awesome storylines in the book, some things that really haven't come to fruition at all in the shows. But it seems that they're finally getting to that route. The king is dead now. You have his brother tuning in. So I'm excited to kind of see where that goes. Theon, of course, leaving Sansa to go back home, which he's going to find to kind of be at a disarray. I'm hoping that the Iron Islands do get more interesting and it doesn't go the way of Dorne, because thankfully we didn't go anywhere near Dorne this week, and I'm very thankful for that, because Dorne was just such a waste of a storyline. Maybe it has a chance to get better, but if it just so happens that we never go back to the Dorne storyline and it's just yeah, girl power, they win, I'm okay with that. Let's forget it ever happened. Let's just erase that from memory. But Iron Islands is starting to get set up again to actually be a key player in our story. And then Arya, of course. I mean, how can we forget about Arya? Arya being kind of invited back in. You saw her in the previews that she is training once again. She has embraced being no one, so no longer is she going to be beaten by a stick. Unfortunately, she will not become the Daredevil version of Westeros, but we do what we can. Like that, when she was walking down the steps. When she was gonna go back into the place, and she was trying to feel for the steps. Use a stick. You have a walking stick. Use that for whatever, what have you. But breaking down this episode, I loved this episode. It had me on the edge of my seat. I was cheering like a little schoolgirl at the end. I was cheering with the dragons. It had some really big moments. A lot of moving forward with characters. I'm gonna give it a 9.4. I'm going to give it a solid 9.4. And maybe on a rewatch it'll be a little bit higher, but this is the Game of Thrones that I think everybody loves. I think this episode is going to be very well received. And I'm so excited now for the next episode. So thoroughly enjoyed it. Don't eat the help. Jon Snow is back, people. This is fantastic, and I cannot wait for him to for the watch absolutely everybody. Is he coming back as a god? Who knows? I think so. Lord of Light? Might be. But him taking out his vengeance on the Night Watch, but more importantly, taking back Winterfell. And when that moment happens, I am going to be ecstatic. But I'm thoroughly excited. I know you're excited. Let me know what you think down in the comments. Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of Game of Toms. I'm Tom Grossi. I'll see you next week.